In the midst of the Vietnam War, 1968 would become a defining year, marked indelibly by the Tet Offensive. At the heart of this monumental episode were elements of surprise, resilience, and far-reaching consequences that shifted the landscape of the war and the world's perception of it. As the Vietnamese New Year, Tet, approached, Saigon and other cities in South Vietnam were cloaked in the customary quietness of celebration and truce. Yet, unbeknownst to most, North Vietnamese forces and the Viet Cong were orchestrating an elaborate military maneuver that would catch their opponents off guard. Across the demilitarized zone, tens of thousands of North Vietnamese troops were preparing to descend on their unsuspecting enemies in a move designed to turn the war in their favor. January 30, 1968, marked the night when the tranquil facade was shattered. The skies over Vietnam echoed with the sounds of gunfire and explosions as North Vietnamese and Viet Cong forces launched attacks on over 100 towns and cities, including the heavily guarded U.S. airbase at Tan Son Nhut and the ancient capital of Hue. The offensive was unparalleled in its scope and intensity. It was marked by audacious and fierce battles such as the one at the U.S. Embassy in Saigon, where Viet Cong fighters briefly held the premises. Hue, a city revered for its historical significance, saw devastating conflict resulting in significant casualties and the city's near destruction. Despite the adversity, the South Vietnamese and U.S. military forces eventually managed to repel the attacks and regain control. Militarily, the offensive was a failure for the North Vietnamese, resulting in massive losses for their forces. However, its impact on the international stage, particularly in the United States, was profound. The intense media coverage of the Tet Offensive brought the harsh realities of the Vietnam War into living rooms across America. Graphic imagery of the destruction and the resilience of the North Vietnamese forces contradicted claims by U.S. officials that the war was nearing a successful conclusion. As the shockwaves from the Tet Offensive rippled through the public consciousness, questions about the purpose and progress of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam became strident and widespread. Many Americans, witnessing the horrors of the war unfold on their television screens and led by influential news anchors who openly questioned the war's merits, began to lose faith in their government's narrative. This marked a significant turning point in public opinion, setting off a wave of anti-war sentiment and protests across the nation. The Tet Offensive not only intensified the war but also served as a powerful catalyst for change back home in the United States. The psychological impact on the American public and the media proved more devastating than any direct military confrontation, altering the course of the Vietnam War profoundly. Ultimately, the legacy of the Tet Offensive is a testament to the unpredictability of war and its power to shift both political landscapes and public perception. It remains a pivotal chapter in the story of Vietnam, one that epitomizes the complexity and tragedy of the conflict and the immeasurable human costs that accompany war.